Before we go any further, why don't you clarify the phrase crowdfunding, because there's a lot of misunderstanding of the term.
Yeah, so crowdfunding right now is generally being used to lump together a bunch of things that actually are not crowdfunding. So the term crowdfunding actually is referring to raising capital from unaccredited investors, which per the SEC is not legal yet. And so if you take a look at crowdfunding in general, the whole term got sparked from the passing of the Jobs Act. And so the Jobs Act has 4 titles to it: Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. And Title II, which recently just passed in the last quarter of 2013, removed the ban on general solicitation to accredited investors. And so it's being mislabeled as crowdfunding when it's really not.
All right, so what are the thresholds for someone to be an accredited investor?
Yeah, so accredited investors per the SEC are individuals who are making over $200,000 a year if they're single, or $300,000 a year if they're married for the last 2 years, or that they have a net worth of $1 million or more, excluding the equity in their primary residence.
So if anybody out there doesn't meet those qualifications, and most people don't, if someone approaches you to invest in crowdfunding, be very wary of them. And why is that?
Well, crowdfunding for real estate is not legal yet, right? So Title III of the Jobs Act
for an unaccredited investor.
Unaccredited investors. Also, crowdfunding, the term actually started from companies like Indiegogo and Kickstarter, where anybody across the world can give money to a cause or a business that they believe in to help them grow. But they weren't getting, in exchange for their money, they weren't getting a piece of ownership of the business. So it wasn't a security because no ownership was being exchanged. They were getting, let's say, the first T-shirt off the assembly line, or the first look at a movie that just got released, or something like that. But now that you're talking about actually investing and owning something so that you can earn a return, the laws for unaccredited investors have not passed. Accredited investors today can't invest.
What was new as a result of the most recent legislation?
Sure. So what's really important for people to understand, and I'm going to speak specifically with respect to real estate since we're at a real estate conference. Real estate companies for the last 7-8 decades have been raising capital through friends and family, people that they've known. And they weren't allowed to generally solicit, meaning they couldn't go to a stranger and ask them to invest in a specific piece of real estate that they wanted to raise money for. And so that law is called Regulation D, Rule 506, raising capital through friends and family and people that you have a pre-existing relationship with. When Title II passed in the last quarter of 2013, Rule 506 was then called Rule 506B because it had some slight modifications. And then the really big change was this new rule called 506C, which is what Title II really brought into effect, which removed the ban on general solicitation. So we really have to separate those two and let people understand what the difference is.
Okay, when you talk about general solicitation, what does that really mean to you? What was the effect upon the business that you do?
Sure. So our company, AssetAvenue, is actually not using Title II 506C. We're using Regulation D, Rule 506B, which has been in effect for decades. So we're actually really, if you really step back and take a look at it, we're not doing anything new. We're taking what's been done offline for decades and we're simply bringing it online and powering it through technology. So when we advertise, we don't advertise a specific deal, which is general solicitation. We advertise AssetAvenue as a website where investors can register to participate in potential investments. And that's where the fine line is between distinguishing whether we're generally soliciting or not.